Hey, have you been looking to lose weight and maybe you've tried different diets in the past, maybe you've tried different plans, or maybe even just tried to eat less food, right? A lot of people have tried this in the past, but they're not sure why it's not working. And today I want to explain to you a concept that I've been using with my people over the last decade to help them get results. And it's a little bit contrary to your belief, but it is that you actually have to eat more in order to lose more. So today's video is all about that. But first, guys, hey, my name is Coach Chris. I'm the owner here at Impact Performance and Fitness, and I've been a strength and conditioning coach and nutrition coach for the last, 11 years of my life. And I help regular people just like you lose weight, get in shape, and transform their bodies. And one of the things that I'm super passionate about is being able to share my education to be able to help people make informed decisions that's going to be able to change their life for the positive. I think right now the internet is really good at confusing people and maybe telling them that they have to do a lot of these things in order for them to get the results. So hopefully after today's video, you'll understand and be able to implement 3 things directly this week that are actually going to start making some changes in your body, in your health, and most importantly, you're going to feel a lot more clarity around the whole topic of your success and your results. All right, so let's talk about this. You have to eat more to lose more. What does that mean? Chris, if I eat more, I'm going to gain more. Anytime I eat more food, I gain more weight, right? I understand, right? And most people, it might be foreign, but I want you to explain, sometimes when people say that, if you have heard that, they haven't explained what they truly mean. And what I mean is, there's more to that equation. If you eat more processed foods, for instance, then typically you're going to gain more weight because processed foods have a ton of calories in there, right? But if you're eating more minimally processed foods, like whole foods, foods that you have to actually cook, things that don't have labels and stuff like that, well, then yes, they're not going to have as many calories in there. So I think that's one of the biggest things is that we have to be more specific and say you have to eat more whole, minimally processed foods that are maybe cooked in your own kitchen or maybe, made fresh somewhere versus, grabbing something quick at a restaurant or to go or takeout or maybe going out, on the weekend, right? If you're eating a lot of those foods, well, yeah, man, if you eat more of that, you are going to gain weight, right? And here's what. One of the biggest things is the food quality matters. Right? Food quality matters. When we're eating minimally processed foods like vegetables, proteins, and things like that, our body is able to extract nutrients from the food, right? There's a ton of nutrients in vegetables and fruit. We all know that, vitamins and minerals, right? Protein, right? There's healthy fats and things like that. So when we're eating foods that are minimally processed, we're actually going to have a better ability to extract the nutrients. And when we extract nutrients, it tells our body that we're full. It tells our body that we're more satisfied, right? And it also tells our body that it's okay to start losing body fat. A lot of times when we're eating processed foods, they lack nutrients, right? They're cooked out of the food, or the food's cooked with oil that we know is really, really bad for us, right? So what happens is that quality of food is maybe not that high. But the calories that are in that food are. So when we eat processed foods, we get a ton of calories with not a lot of nutrients and vitamins in there. But when we eat whole minimally processed food, well, we get a little bit of calories with a ton of vitamins, minerals, and nutrients that our body actually needs to do its everyday functions, right? So that's tip number 1, is that you got to really focus on your food quality when you're thinking about eating more to lose more. Because now I want to explain a concept we call caloric load. All right, what does caloric load mean? Well, it's kind of like saying that cake, say there's 400 calories of cake, all right? And we have 400 calories of healthy food. I'll let you imagine. It could be fruits and vegetables and protein, right? Now, when we go to eat the 400 calories of healthy food, our body has to break all that down, right? The protein, the vegetables, and it's pretty hard for our body to do that. And so we actually go through a process of burning calories when we're eating that food. And that's called the thermic effect of food. So in order to break down these healthier foods, our body has to burn calories in the process. Therefore, we're kind of not absorbing all of those. And then our body also, when it's healthier food, it's not going to absorb all of those calories. So if there's 400 calories sitting on that plate, we may only if we eat all of it, we may only take in 325 calories or 350 calories. But on the other hand, our cake could be the same 400 calories, so maybe it's a tiny piece of cake because we know you're not going to get a lot of cake, but 400 calories. But say we go to eat that piece of cake. Well, because it's processed and it's tons of sugars and stuff, our body will actually take in all 400 calories, right? So over here, when we eat healthy food, our body doesn't take in all of the calories. So you can eat, a 700 calorie meal and only take in 600, for instance, right? Because our body has to break all that food down and it's hard and it doesn't absorb it all. But on this end, if we eat 600 calories of like a Philly cheesesteak or a Wawa meatball, that was my favorite, Wawa meatball sandwich, right? We're going to absorb all of those calories, right? So one of the easiest things that we can do to actually start losing weight is just switch the quality of food and eat less takeout food and eat more food that we make. Right? You don't even have to change necessarily. If you're like a lasagna person or you're like a, turkey, chili or whatever it is, like meatloaf, you can still have all those recipes, right? But there's a difference by literally just making it a home-cooked meal with your ingredients that you're putting in versus using a meal that's like takeout from a restaurant, right? So just making that small switch automatically is going to make a big change. All right, so now that we've talked about eating more minimally processed foods, well, the next part that we got to talk about is, obviously what types of food that you want to focus on eating more. And typically this is just from experience of coaching hundreds of men and women over the last 10 years. When I sit down with somebody on our initial nutrition consultation and we talk about hey, what are we eating? On average, we'll find that the typical person's eating anywhere from 60 to 80 grams of protein per day. And that's just not nearly enough to be able to support their body. But most importantly, this is causing them to have cravings and to have uncontrollable hunger and to be tired and lethargic. And the reason why is because when we eat protein, and specifically throughout the day, what ends up happening is we're stabilizing our blood sugar. And that's a really, really important thing because our body can't lose fat until our body has registered that we are stabilized with our blood sugar and our energy levels. So by eating throughout the day, we're giving our body stabilized energy. But number two, we're giving it the essential building blocks that it needs to survive. So our body needs a certain amount of protein per day, right? There's lots of different, theories out there on how much protein you should have in your body, but typically I tell people, 1 gram of protein per pound. Sometimes that gets a little confusing if you've got weight to lose. If you've got 30 pounds of weight to lose, then a lot of times we'll tell people to go, 1 gram per pound of your goal weight, right? That's a good place to start. Now, I want to make sure that, the average person watching this, when we're getting someone that's coming in and say, I look at their numbers and I'm like, hey, you should be getting 120 grams of protein per day, but they're eating 60 grams per protein per day. Well, they're not going to just jump overnight to 120 grams. It may just look like, hey, we're going to add a little more protein and get you somewhere to 70 or 80 grams, and then we build on that until we get to our goal protein. So before I tell you any arbitrary numbers, you should always definitely speak to someone, specifically who, is going to individualize this for you. But a good rule of thumb that we've been able to use for people is 1 gram of protein per pound of lean body mass. Now, not everyone has an in-body scale that they can just jump on and get a report and be okay, I have X amount of lean body mass. So for the average person that doesn't have that resource, I might say, hey, 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. And that is if you're very close to the body weight that you want to be. Now, if you are in the beginning of your journey and you have, say, 20, 30, 45, 50 pounds, 60 pounds to lose, well, that's going to be ridiculous. If you're 225 pounds, and you're like, whoa, Chris, you're saying eat 225 grams of protein. No, well, if your goal is to be, 175, for instance, then you might want to set your protein closer to that 175. And then also look at where you're at. If your goal needs to be 175, but you're at 75, well, then we need to progressively get there over a period of weeks so that your body can adapt. And what you'll see is that you won't even realize, you'll realize that you don't even have to actually be eating the 175 to get results. That just the climbing itself of from 75 to 85, right? Like those are how I get my clients those quick wins, is just by increasing their protein by 10 grams, per day, or maybe 15 grams per day, right? We might not, like newsflash, most of my clients never hit their protein goal, right? But they're still able to get results because they're just eating more than they used to. And then it goes hand in hand with that we're now spacing out and doing meal timing throughout the day, because there's a lot of most people will come into me and they'll say, hey, Chris, can I do like intermittent fasting to get to do like my dieting? Because I'll be like, okay, well, why do you want to do intermittent fasting? And they go, well, intermittent fasting, I realize that I don't eat until 11 or 12 or 1, and then I'll eat, and then I'll be done eating at night. And I'm like, okay, cool. Well, sounds like this is like your lifestyle. Like you like to be able to kind of chunk it in. An interesting thing is our body adapts to whatever we do. So most of the people don't realize that their body has adapted to not eating, right? So when people come in and they're like, hey, Chris, I want to have more energy. I want to feel better. I want to be stronger. I want to do these things, but I feel like I'm tired. It's because you're not eating, right? So if you are doing intermittent fasting and you're kind of just not really following the other principles that you need to follow with nutrition, a lot of times what happens is our body becomes what's called metabolically adapted. All right, metabolically adapted means our metabolism will actually slow down to meet the amount of calories that we're eating. So if we're not eating a lot throughout the day, say we're only eating 1,100, 1,400, 1,500 calories a day, well, our body will register and say, well, we don't need that many calories. We're not getting that many calories. So let's readjust our metabolism. Let's slow everything down so that way, we can get the right amount of food that we need to survive each day. Right? So that's the only gripe that I have with intermittent fasting, is typically when I watch and look at people's calories throughout the day, is they're not eating enough food because they're trying to do the window. And early on, this will work to lose weight. And the reason why is because if you're eating 3,000 calories a day or 4,000 calories a day, and then you're like, well, I'm going to eat between these windows, well, you're just cutting out a significant amount of calories that you would have eaten, so you put yourself into a deficit. So that's where most people don't realize they're only losing weight because they basically cut out a whole bunch of calories because they're not eating as frequently as they're eating, and in return, they put themselves in a deficit. Well, now there's a reason why people say it's safe to lose 1 pound per week, 1 pound per week, right? Because you don't want to have a deficit that's too big, right? 300 to 500 calorie deficit is going to be where you want to be to lose weight, to be able to do it sustainably over a long period of time. Anytime we start increasing that to 700 calories or 800 calories or 1,000 calorie deficit, well, your body will respond. This is why people doing a quick 28-day, 21-day, 6-week can lose a lot of weight very quick, but then they put it back on later on. And that was because they created such a deficit that their body responded by lowering their metabolism, but then they started eating more, they started eating regular, right? They started eating a little bit more food, and all of a sudden, now, where they used to be burning 1,400 calories per day, now they're burning 1,200 calories per day. So when they go and eat 1,800 calories per day, they're gaining weight quicker, right? And that's one of the reasons why you have to look at sustainability with any plan that you're doing. You have to do something that's going to actually help your body for the long haul. It's not that I have anything against intermittent fasting. It's really about making it work for you. So we know that there are certain principles when it comes to, our body. Our protein is important. And the reason why is our body will break down protein all day long, right? In order to, make cells in our body. So if our body is making cells throughout the entire day, we need to be giving it the raw materials to make those cells. So if you're not eating, specifically not eating protein, well, your body's not getting what it needs. And when your body doesn't get what it needs, it's really good at taking what it needs. So this is when our body will actually start breaking down muscle throughout our body to turn it into what we call amino acids. And then from there, be able to get what it needed. But we can avoid that by just eating more protein, right? If we eat protein throughout the day, now our body is getting what it needs. It doesn't have to break down our lean muscle. It's in our diet. It's in our body. It's free flowing. So now our body can actually do what it needs to do. And this is why it actually will stabilize your energy. It's going to make you feel more full because you actually have food in your belly throughout the day, right? And your body's not worried about when's the next meal. You're not worried. It doesn't have to feel like it's starving when you eat. And now also, if you're waiting till you're really hungry to eat, well, then you're always going to eat more calories than you actually need, right? So you're always going to overeat because you waited too long to eat. So it's important to feed your body throughout the day so that you're not overeating. And that on its own will help you lose weight as well. All right, so when we're thinking about protein throughout the day, we're thinking about what is a protein? Like what foods are good proteins to eat? Well, we have like your basics. Everyone knows like your chickens, like your turkey, beef, lean pork, right? You got tofu, we got beans and lentils, we have Greek yogurt, we have milks and cheeses, although they tend to be a little higher in fat, so you got to be careful how much of the dairy you do. I'm not against it, but you got to also be careful how much you consume. But yeah, so there's plenty of different other like Impossible Burger and different vegetarian choices. There's eggs, there's jerkies, right? There's whey protein, there's protein bars. We can talk more about protein in another video, and we'll tap into a lot of these things in different videos individually. But for this one specifically, just eating more of those foods throughout the day is really going to make a big difference as far as like how you feel, how satisfied you feel, how many calories your body is consuming, right? As we said that earlier, if you're eating a ton of protein, right, it's going to be less calories that you're actually eating versus if you ate like a Wawa meatball sandwich. That protein's not going to be that good. It's going to have a lot of calories in there. All right, and then the last one, guys, is like move more, right? Everyone's heard this before, but a lot of times people think that they need to go smash themselves with workouts and like work out really, really hard. But the reality is 2 days a week, 3 days a week of just moderate resistance training is good enough to see the results that you want to see. Right? Specifically resistance training because we're building muscle. So I actually prioritize lifting weights more than doing cardio. All right, most people tend to do cardio, but we burn more calories in a strength training workout, typically if you're working hard in that workout. And then you're also building muscle and boosting your metabolism so that you lose more weight in the long run. So I'd rather have my client work out 2 times a week, doing strength training, really challenging them, making them sweat in that workout, and then their body's going to be much more set up for success in the future. Now, the problem that I see that typically when people start working out, they don't realize that when we start to move more, our body will register that, right? Our metabolism registers more movement. Therefore, it's going to register more hunger. So as you start to exercise more, your body is actually going to want more food. And this is where I see most of my people like struggle in the beginning, is that if they're not accountable to their food or they're not actually watching what they're eating or having a structured plan or at least like some basic structure around their goals, like, hey, eat 3 meals a day, right? Or eat 4 meals a day, or, have a protein at every meal or a protein and a vegetable at every meal. Like if they don't have some kind of structure, typically this is where I'll see that they'll gain weight in those first few weeks because their body started to move more. Their body then, like their brain registered they needed more calories, and they just started eating more. So they tend to snack more, not eat full meals. And then when we're eating these snacks, they're higher in processing. So we take in all those calories. So people don't realize that in the beginning, as they start to move more, they're going to want to eat more. And when they eat more, they're typically eating more in a snacking manner versus sitting down and having 3 balanced meals throughout the day. So just be aware that as you start to move more, you also need to watch that you're not eating more, right? So if you take all 3 of those things and you put them together, so the first one was, food quality, right? Food quality matters, right? Not eating processed food, because when you eat processed food, you absorb all of the calories. When you eat minimally processed foods, you only absorb some of those calories or most of the calories, right? But these are good calories that are actually going to make your body feel more satisfied. They're more nutrient dense, and you're actually going to get results. All right, and then number 2 was protein, right? Like protein is one of the most important things that you should be eating throughout the day. Like you need to get more protein if you want to build muscle, if you want to lose body fat, and if you want to feel satisfied and stabilize your blood sugar, right? So even if you're just like working on like making sure that you don't have diabetes, like even just eating protein is going to help you as far as like health and longevity goes, because those are the building blocks of the human body and what our body actually needs to be successful. And then number 3, if you start to move more, you also need to understand that your body's going to want you to eat more. So be cautious and just understand that going into an exercise routine that, hey, give yourself just some small parameters like I'm going to eat 3 meals a day, or I'm going to eat a protein at every meal, or I'm going to try to like, I'm going to clean out my cupboard, make sure there's no snacks in there, so that if I do want snacks, it's hard and I have to go to the store to actually go get them, right? We talk about changing the environment. We'll have a whole nother video on that one. But like changing the environment sometimes is a great way to make sure that you don't go off the deep end in your house. If it's hard to get to, then it's hard to eat. And so you want to make sure that you fill your house full of minimally processed foods that are ready to go, lots of proteins, so that as you start to move more, your body does crave more, and that's good. If you want to eat more, that's great. But eat more of the minimally processed foods, because that's actually going to be what your body is needing. Your body's probably talking to you and saying, hey, like, I need more calories. I need more calories. But like what it's really saying is, I need more nutrients. I need more nutrients. I need more nutrients. So it's wanting you to eat more calories in a sense of nutrient-dense calories coming from minimally processed foods and lean protein. All right, guys, I hope this video helps. I hope like you're able to take maybe one thing out of this video, implement it right away into your life. Maybe you got like a huge aha moment that like kind of like just turned on something. You're like, oh man, this is what I've been missing this whole time. So if it is, then please give me a thumbs up on this video. Subscribe to our channel so you can make sure you're catching the rest of the videos, and share this with somebody who you think they can help. And hey guys, if you're a coach listening to this, man, I hope that I help you be able to help more people with your practice, with your training. And if you're a coach listening to this, thank you, because I know that you're out there helping the world be a better place. Once again, I'm Coach Chris from Impact Performance and Fitness.